Hello, Power People. Today we'll see how to create Power Apps in the simplest way possible and discuss more around it. Welcome to the second episode of this Power Platform Beginner to Pro series for all of us who wants to understand and learn Microsoft Power Platform, its different products and how to leverage those in business use cases. My name is Sunil Kumar, your Power Trainer, a Power Platform enthusiast and a Microsoft certified professional. Let's hop onto this train to learn and discuss more around this. First, let's have a quick recap of what we have learned in our previous episode. What is Power Platform? Power Platform is an umbrella of Microsoft products. Then, what all different products we learned about, the Power Apps, Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate, Power BI, Power Pages. Then what all the building blocks of an application are. One is the front end, then back end, and then the process flow which connects both of these. And then we saw where which product of Microsoft Power Platform fits in, like Power Apps fits in the front end block, Power Automate fits in process flow block, and then the SharePoint or Dataverse fits in the backend block. Then we learned about what is SharePoint Online. In SharePoint Online, how it acts as a backend for us, what all it can handle. It can handle the data, it can act as a file server, and then on top of it, it can create websites, site pages, which are not of part from the backend perspective as of now. In this demo, we will see how to create a SharePoint list, its different data types of columns, and then how do we create a simplest Power Apps from this list. So first, let's understand that we are in a new SharePoint site which is called as HR SharePoint site, and we have taken a very basic use case of HR ticketing. HR ticketing where employees can go ahead and request and raise issue to HR team for different scenarios based on different request types, based on HR documentation, salary compensation, and many others. So let's go ahead and see to create a SharePoint list first. So if I go to site contents from here, I can click on new, create a list. There are multiple ways to create a list, blank list, from existing SharePoint list, and from an Excel as well. So I'll go ahead and click on create, and the list which we are going to create today looks like this. So it's always advisable to have the columns and data types created already with you in an Excel, in a notepad somewhere, so that you don't have to revisit on which all columns and data types which needs to be created. So here, first thing is we are going to go ahead and create these 6 columns, which are requester, which is a person column, and then request date, which is a date time, request type, which is a choice column with all these options, then details, which is a multi-line text, status, with these all options, and then assign to, which is again a person column. Now, along with, whenever you go ahead and create a SharePoint site or a list, in a list you always see there are some out of box column created. One of those column is title, and other columns are also there, which I will quickly show you. Out of these out of box column, you can always leverage those as well as part of your Power Apps. So let's go ahead and quickly see what all other columns as we get when we create a list. So I will name this as HR tickets and click on create. So as soon as I create, I will be able to see a title column which is already generated here. If I go to list settings, I could see there are other columns which are also created. Modified, which is the date, modification date it will show corresponding to each record. Created, when that record was created. Created by, it is, which is a person or group column, people picker column, which means when the record was created, and modified by whom it is modified. So apart from these, if I want to go ahead and create new columns, I'll be able to create it from here as well. So if I click on create, first column which I need is requester. So I'll just quickly add that requester, which is a person column. I choose the data type from here. And as soon as I choose the data type, it will ask me whether some other information, whether this column needs to be required, is a mandatory column, enforce unique values, means this value cannot be used in any other record when it gets created, allow multiple selection, which means multiple people can be added in this column, no. For this, allow selection from whether it should be only the people of the organization or people and groups. So what do we mean by groups? Are different groups which are created, SharePoint groups, so that those also can be part of this particular column as a value. Apart from that, it says choose from all users or a specific SharePoint group which you have already created, so it can also direct from there. So in that case, if I choose SharePoint group and let's say this is the group I want to select, from here it means all the members which are part of this group are only be selected, would only be able to selected as value for this particular column, which we do not need as in this case. So I'll go ahead with all users and click on OK. So as soon as I create that, I can see the requester column is created, which is a person or a group column, and it's not a mandatory one as of now, but we can make it later. So next columns are request date. When I go ahead and click on another create column, request date. Now, one thing I want you to notice here is I can see a space here, right? Let's see how the space looks like when we go ahead and create a column. So request date is a date and time column. I choose date and time. I select other fields which are already selected. I do not touch on those, and I created this column as requested. Now this is kind of a display name of this column. So when I click on this column, this thing which we need to notice is if I go ahead and click on URL and go to the end of this URL, I can see the field, the name is request date. The space which we considered while creating the column gets translated in this format, which is highly not advisable to have anything in the field name, some random text. So what we can do to hold this is delete this column for now. I will go ahead and recreate this column without any space. So if I click on create again, request date, which was the column, and this time I will choose not to give any space and click on date and time. So the first time when you create a column, try and not give any space. When I click on it again, I go to end of this, I can see the request date field is correctly mentioned with no extra hash code added here. Now, when I go ahead and create a column, later, once the column is created, later, as many times I change the column name, it is not going to affect the backend name. Now that you can see the display name is with the space request date, but when I go back again to the end of this URL, the field name, the internal name is always the request date with no spaces. So what does this mean? It means that you have to create the column for the first time without spaces. Try not to create with any spaces or any other characters. So similarly, I will go ahead and create another columns. Just one. So now you can see that other columns are also created here. Request type, which is a choice column, details, which is a multi-line text, status, assigned to, and from all these auto-created out-of-box columns, we'll be leveraging title also. Now, one another important thing to understand here is along with all these columns, there is one another column which gets created by default and this is not mentioned here, which is a unique column and is a mandatory column. So which we do not have to create, and I will show you that. In here, when I go to this list view, from here, if I click on any of these columns, column settings, show and hide column, ID. ID is the column which is not shown but is always created here. So ID is a unique column, and it with every row record getting created here, this will get assigned a value, a unique value, which even if you go ahead and delete this record, this particular ID value can never be generated again. So this has been taken care by SharePoint automatically. Now we have all the columns ready, we have the list ready. So the very simplest way to create a Power App is from integrate. I click on integrate, I see a bunch of other options. For now, we will go ahead and click on create an app. So from here, I'll just mention the app name, HR Tickets app, and I click on create. Here you can see that a Power App is created, which is a mobile based application with 3 different screens here. Now let's understand, this is the first time we are coming to Power Apps editor. Let's understand what all different components we have in here. So the middle section is the play area for you, where you go ahead and build your application. You see different components, how those look and feel is there, how the UI UX looks like. Apart from this, let's understand this is the pane from where you get all of your functions. From insert, you will be able to see multiple options, multiple controls, which you can insert here. So if you click on text label, it will get added here. Let me quickly click on that, and you can see getting added here. Right now we don't need it, so I'll just go ahead and delete it. Add data. So if you click on add data, this from here you can go ahead and create different data sources for you. Right now we just have one data source, which is the SharePoint list for us. From here you click on new screen, you get layouts, templates. You can go ahead and create different screens or add different screens here. Now theme, background, we'll talk about all these as well. Important thing from here is to preview this app. This is the play button, from where you can actually preview the functions. You can see what all different controls, how those will look like in actual play mode. Now there is a save button, and then there is a publish button. So if you click on publish, this app will get published, and from there users, you just have to share the link with users of this application, and obviously you have to share this application also with them so that they can go ahead and start using this. Now let's understand other components also here. So first is the tree view. Tree view means if you click on this, you will show and hide the tree view of this. So tree view always show the different screens which you have added in this application. So browse screen, detail screen, and edit screen. Right now we have three screens which are created out of box from this Power Apps. Now if I click on insert, this insert is similar to this insert. So as Microsoft is known for providing similar functionality from different points, so that it becomes very accessible to users. So that's the similar concept here. Now data, again the same thing. Media, in this particular section you can always go ahead and upload, as it says, upload image, video, audio files which can be used in an application. There are some limitations. You can always click on learn more and get to know about that. Power Automate, if you want to integrate Power Automate in this, instant Power Automate in this. And then there are other options. We will discuss more on those as well. Let's go back to the tree view here and understand the application which has been built. So the browse screen, as the name suggests, this is specifically for browsing the data records which are already created, right? So let's do one thing. Let's play this first. Let's go ahead and see and add some data here. So as soon as I click on plus icon here, which says create new item, I'll be able to see the screen from where I can go ahead and create an item. So the title is let's say documentation, right? So I'll click on this. I need a HR document for driving license. Requester and all, I do not have to choose, but in case if I want, I can choose. So let me choose Sunil Kumar. Request date is today's date, and then request type. I can change. This is for HR documentation details. I will say need document for DL, driving license, which is a short form of it. Status, I will set it as submitted, and assign to, I do not have anything to assign to right now, do not have anyone there. I click on plus. So by default, I can see this is how it looks. The title is here, the ID is here, and then the name of the requester, the created by here. Now this is the option from where I can go ahead and view item details. So this is the view of this. I can see some of the extra characters here because this is a particular multi-line text column, right? Which has the enhanced feature enabled to it for rich text. So that's why we are seeing it, but we can handle those as well. Now from here, this view screen, I can always go ahead and either I can delete this item or I can edit also. So if I click on edit, I say I need HR document for DL and bank account and bank account. So if I click on save, I'll be able to see the updates being done in here in the real time. Now, if I don't want this to be there, I can always go ahead and click on delete this item, and this can be deleted. Now, we are seeing here the different CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete options from here, right? In the similar way, let's see how these are actually working. So first screen is browse screen. In the browse screen, you can see that this is a gallery here. So gallery is one of the control from Power Apps which can help us in adding or seeing the records in multi-line text format, in different lines format, records format. Right? So this is first record, then automatically the second records will start coming in here. Now if I now this thing is browse screen. Now if I click on details screen, I can see other options. It is just a view of the record which are added here. Now other screen is edit screen. From here I can always go ahead and create and edit the records. The first thing you will notice here is this is an edit form. So the form control is by default provided by Power Apps. This is one way of adding data, viewing data from the data source. So here I can see the data source is HR ticket list, which is our list, and the fields which we have considered in this particular form are these fields. We can always go ahead and move these around. Let's say I want a request assigned to details requester at the bottom. So I can always go ahead, just drag and drop to the bottom, and that's how in the real time you will see that requester and request state are moved to the bottom of the form as fields. I'll just quickly close this. Right now, if you see, and these are the three screens which we have. This is a mobile based application right now, if you see, right? But what if we want to change it to a desktop based screen? I go to settings, display. From here I get the option of orientation, whether this is a portrait orientation or it's a landscape orientation. So as soon as I change it to landscape, everything will get in a landscape mode, which more suits the desktop or the tablet view, right? And then we have already seen the data saving, and so if I click on plus once again, okay, now understand one another thing I want to highlight here is being in the preview or edit mode itself, you can always make your application in the similar as in the play mode. How you can do that is just click alt on your keyboard So the application will start working as in a play mode. So if I click on this, keep pressing the Alt button on your keyboard, and then you can see how it will react. So this was a quick demo of how the basic or the simplest Power Apps can be created from the data source. Now, keeping this as a data source, this is one way of doing it. There are multiple ways to create application also. Now, let me do one thing. I'll just quickly publish this. It says publish this version. Yes, I want to publish this version, and I will. There is another way from this breadcrumbs. I click on this, I go to Power Apps. So this is the same place where we land. I click on apps. So this is the HR ticket app which we have created here, and I can always go ahead and click on share. We will talk about other properties as well. I will share this with, let's say, another user of my organization, and I can always select, unselect, send an email invitation to this new user or not. Let's say send it. And for this data permission, make sure your users have access to this data in your app. So we need to also provide access to this application or this SharePoint site or this SharePoint list to our user. So once the permissions are updated, we will go ahead and log in with Barack Obama's login, and then we will try and submit some data from there. So now we can see all permission changes were successful. I'll just cancel this. I will take the URL from here of this application. So this is in the details section, the web link, and you can get the QR code as well. So once we share the application, before that we have to do one another thing is add that particular user in our data source as well. So right now we already have Barack Obama added as an owner of this site. So he will be able to access all the particulars list libraries from this. Now let's switch to Barack Obama's login. As soon as I start loading the application, I will be able to see the allow button here. So this is a prompt which gives the user a notification that you are allowing your access from your login to access this particular uh, data source. So if I click on allow, I will be able to, so this is Barack Obama's login and you can see it here. So right now, from here, they will be able to access, and so let's say they want assistance on printer purchase. Request type, it is a request type of HR documentation, let's call it as that. And then it's a random text I'm just trying to put in here. Submitted, assigned to, I don't know from which team it gets to assign to. I'm just trying to do the CRUD operations using this and then just save it. So I can see that this data is saved, and if I quickly jump to the list, I will be able to see that the data is saved in here as well. So this was a quick demo of how we can build a simplest Power Apps from an SharePoint list, and from here on we will take forward to build more intermediate and then the complex Power Apps from here on. Along with that, we will discuss more around the other Power Platform products as well. Thank you so much for your time, and let's connect again in our third episode.